With more than 3,000 acres of terrain within driving distance of Denver, Keystone has historically competed with the best ski resorts in Colorado, at least on paper. The resort has always offered easy access to plenty of wide groomers, steep bump runs, and fun tree areas, but in years past, the area's practical size was hampered by the lack of direct lift access to a substantial portion of its footprint, including all of its above treeline bowl terrain. But in late 2023, Keystone finally added a lift to its high alpine footprint, providing a long-awaited solution for this significant shortcoming. So just how competitive have these recent enhancements been? Well, in this video, we'll go through Keystone's overall mountain experience, and then we'll go through how the resort stacks up in our overall rankings. If you find this information helpful, be sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any of our content. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter for crucial industry updates and other exclusive content you won't see in our videos. With that all being said, let's jump in. When it comes to a destination ski vacation, high quality snow is key. And while Keystone does fit the bill, it does fall a bit behind its closest competitors in this department. The resort sees slightly less accumulation than the best Colorado resorts each year, and major snow events that hit places such as Breckenridge and Arapahoe Basin often dump somewhat less on Keystone. That being said, Keystone does hold its snow well in below treeline areas, and the resort employs extensive snowmaking to ensure resiliency and open terrain early compared to other resorts. Keystone has made significant investments in its snowmaking infrastructure in recent years, and the enhancements have been really effective at allowing the resort to build an artificial base. In fact, Keystone's early season snowmaking is so effective that the resort often opens in mid or late October, making it either one of the first resorts, if not the first, to open up for the season in North America on a regular basis. When you first get to Keystone, it looks pretty unimposing for a major Colorado ski resort. Both bases sit on the front side of a peak called Bergman Mountain, which mainly consists of gentler slopes with below treeline terrain. Most runs in these areas are mellower groomers, but a few sections of steeper bump runs exist as well. But when you get to the top of the front side, you'll see where Keystone starts to shine. You'll not only see the start of the slopes down the backside of Bergman, but also not just one, but two additional peaks of trails up ahead. These include North Peak, which is immediately adjacent to Bergman Mountain and home to a wide variety of intermediate and advanced runs, and the Outback, which also hosts this level of terrain, but specializes in glades. If you haven't been before, it's really a sight to behold seeing this ski resort continue on as extensively as it does, and you really have to see it to believe it. But North Peak and Outback aren't the only trail pods beyond Keystone's front side anymore. For the 2023-24 season, the resort finally expanded its lift service into the high alpine, installing a new chairlift up the resort's namesake Keystone Peak into the Bergman Bowl. This new terrain zone is accessible from the top of North Peak, with a distinctive mix of trails for all ability levels, including some uniquely accessible runs for beginners and intermediates. But while a great addition to the resort, the new Bergman Bowl isn't exactly a substitute for the vast bowls of Vail, Copper, or even Breckenridge. The above treeline bowl section doesn't last particularly long, and the lower half of the lift line mainly includes glades and tree-defined trails. However, Keystone was long one of the only serious Colorado destinations to not offer any lift-served bowls at all, and the resort finally checks that box. On paper, Keystone looks like a pretty good ski destination for beginners. The resort offers top-to-bottom green-rated skiing on its Bergman Mountain front side, and the new Bergman Bowl expansion adds the stunning new 10-mile green trail, which offers incredible panoramas and an above treeline experience that's really hard to come by on other terrain of this ability level. The Bergman Bowl project has also added a green route down to the Ruby and Santiago Express lifts for the first time, making the backside a lot more accessible to beginners than it used to be. But while Keystone's green runs might look pretty compelling on the surface, the resort is still hampered by a limited quantity of this type of terrain. While the expanded footprint has helped, guests will still want to prepare for extensive congestion on the Bergman side's Schoolmarm run. One will be hard-pressed to find any other singular trail that experiences the same density of skier traffic as Schoolmarm, especially at the end of the day, so if one is proficient enough to do so, it's prudent to avoid this trail at all costs. Keystone becomes a substantially more compelling mountain for skiers and riders of intermediate proficiency. Every mountain area is home to moderately sloped cruisers, with a range of traditional below treeline trails, gladed runs, and high alpine bowls available throughout the resort. A few blue trails throughout the North Peak, Bergman Bowl, and Outback areas often remain ungroomed, making for solid environments to learn moguls. While not egregiously overrated, Some of Keystone's blues are on the steeper side for Colorado, and might be rated as blacks at certain competing ski resorts. Keystone also offers a pretty compelling terrain park, but it's not exactly the world-class setup that existed in previous years. The Area 51 park is designed with progression in mind, and it offers a range of rollers, boxes, rails, and jumps ranging from extra small to large. But if this past season was any example, the massive super pipes and jumps of years past seem to have been relegated to the history books, with the park now taking more of a family-friendly shape than one designed for the pros. In today's world, Keystone is perhaps best suited for advanced skiers and riders. Once one gets beyond the fairly mellow front side, the resort is home to a range of long, trying bump runs that really put a strain on one's endurance. Visitors will find an abundance of steep tree terrain all around the resort as well, with the most standout trees existing in the North Peak and Outback areas thanks to varying glade widths and better powder retention than the front side. The Bergman Bowl lift has opened up access to a huge swath of advanced bowls and glades that used to be hike to only, and the complexity of traversing to many of these areas mean they still hold snow fairly well. The resort also grooms a handful of black runs on a regular basis, and combined with the sheer length of some of these trails, this allows for some of the fastest bombable trail segments anywhere in North America. But don't actually try to speed your way down these runs, because Keystone's safety patrol will pull your pass. Keystone isn't half bad for expert visitors either, although it wouldn't be our first pick for those looking for truly extreme terrain. Keystone's most demanding trails are its Windows Glades, which involve especially steep pitches and obstacles such as bare rocks, tree stumps, and a few hidden cliffs. But besides these few out-of-the-way glades, Keystone is much more of an endurance mountain than a technically challenging one. Those looking for especially hair-raising features may want to go elsewhere. Even with the new Bergman Bowl lift, a good number of Keystone's advanced and expert resort areas remain hike-to only. The North and South Peak areas off the Outback lift still mostly require hiking to reach, as do parts of the Windows trees. The north face of the Independence Bowl can be reached from the Bergman chair but still requires hiking to get out of, and if one wants to ski or ride the south face of this bowl, one must actually hike twice. The first time up from the bottom of the Independence Bowl basin to actually get to the runs in this area, and then the second time to actually get back to the lifts. But at least in the case of the ones that aren't heinously time and energy consuming, the hikes can be well worth it. In the cases of the Windows and Outback hikes, a 5 to 10 minute uphill jaunt can bring you to some amazing powder troves. And if one does end up hiking all the way to the most remote mountain areas, the terrain is as isolated as one will ever get within the bounds of an actual ski resort. Speaking of remoteness, Keystone's longest hikes can take quite some time to complete, and the resort starts closing them daily as early as 1 p.m. So be sure to get a move on if you want to do one of them during your day at the resort. Unfortunately, one of the casualties of Keystone's new Bergman Bowl lift has been its cat skiing experiences. While the resort used to offer a range of per-ride and private snowcat trips, these unique opportunities are now a thing of the past, meaning that anyone who wants to access terrain that isn't served directly by lift won't be able to bypass the hikes with a snowcat anymore. But at least after a day of hiking, Keystone offers a number of convenient lodges to stop in at across Durham Mountain and North Peak. These are your typical ski resort cafeterias without much in the way of a local feel, but the 3 mid-mountain lodges are equipped for the demand, and the 2 North Peak options offer generous outdoor seating that allows for sunbathing on nice days. Food options are pricey and for the most part just okay in quality, but if you do have to stop in, the barbecue at Labonte's Cabin, which is at the bottom of the Ruby and Santiago lifts, is pretty good. Despite its magnitude, getting around Keystone is more straightforward than you'd think thanks to clear signage and well-placed lifts. However, it does take a long time and multiple lifts to travel to the furthest mountain areas by nature of the resort's stacked mountain design. Most frontside and North Peak trails do have enough of a slope to allow guests to keep their speed throughout the entire run, but the feeder run down into Outback is pretty flat, and it can require some catwalking if you're not careful. It is worth noting that cell service in the Outback area is pretty much non-existent, so be careful not to lose people in your group when you're out there. Thanks to a fleet of mostly high-speed lifts and 2 gondolas, the lift setup at Keystone mostly impresses. The ride up from the bases to the top of Durham Mountain is a long one, but it's held down by the River Run 8-passenger gondola, a lift route consisting of 2 6-packs, and 1 high-speed quad that mainly functions in helper capacity. Every major lift on North Peak is high-speed as well, as is the isolated Outback Express. There are multiple lift options at most major junctions, leading to very few resort choke points, which helps control crowds on busy days, which Keystone admittedly sees a lot of during peak times. The new Bergman Bowl 6-pack is a great addition to Keystone's lift fleet, providing quick transportation to the high alpine and expanding the resort's lift-served vertical drop by an additional 220 feet. But there's one exception to Keystone's modern lift infrastructure. The only way to exit the Outback area is by taking the Wayback Fixed Grip Quad, an exasperatingly slow lift that just somehow hasn't been upgraded over the years. There are no lodges or facilities at Outback, so anyone trying to escape an influx of bad weather or just needing a break will have to bear through this lift. The pressure on this lift has only increased this year, with some of the advanced level trails from the Bergman Bowl lift filtering directly down to it. Riding this thing feels especially punishing after a day of exclusively detachable lifts. Rumors of an upgrade have been swirling for years, but nothing has materialized. It's worth noting that Keystone offers night skiing, a rarity among major Rocky Mountain ski resorts. Typically open Fridays, Saturdays, and holidays, the experience offers only limited terrain but covers the entire vertical of Durham Mountain and the whole Area 51 terrain park. However, night skiing hours have decreased drastically in recent years, and operations now only go until 7 p.m. rather than the previous 8, 9, and even 10 p.m. close times of years past. In addition, Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday night skiing outside of holiday periods have been relegated to the history books as well. As a result of these circumstances, many locals are hard-pressed to even call this night skiing, and it's a lot harder to take advantage of Keystone for some after-hours turns than it used to be. Like other Interstate 70 corridor ski areas, Keystone's closest city is Denver. With no traffic, the resort is about 2 hours from the Denver International Airport. However, weekend drives often come with serious backups on I-70, which is the only practical road to the resort from the east. Visitors can also fly into Eagle County Regional Airport, which is just over an hour from the resort, but it's typically pricier to fly into, and it's closer to a number of other resorts. Regardless of which airport you fly into, a number of shuttle services exist to and from the mountain. Keystone offers a decent amount of free parking at its River Run base area, although the slopeside lot does fill up quickly during weekends and holidays. Once the River Run lot fills up, guests can park in overflow lots, with shuttle service to the slopes. If you don't want to take the shuttle and the free lot is full, Keystone does offer some preferred parking too, as well as a few priority spots reserved for carpools of 4 or more or families carrying kids 12 or under. For those looking to stay on site, Keystone offers plenty of options. The resort isn't exactly bargain basement, but hotels and condos are more reasonably priced for what you get than at competing mountains, and they often have hot tubs or pools. There are some pretty good hotels and townhomes within a short driving distance of the resort too, but don't expect a true town outside the base village like you'll find at Breckenridge, Aspen, or Telluride. Thanks to its walkable base village and some nearby bars and restaurants on the access road, Keystone offers an enjoyable Aprés-Ski scene. Multiple happy hour bars can be found in the base village, and on various nights, visitors will find a few bars with live music, DJs, or even trivia. However, Keystone's opera scene isn't nearly as extensive as that of nearby Breckenridge or even Vail, and those visiting for more than a day or two may start to feel limited in terms of available activities. So Keystone offers a uniquely designed footprint, excellent glade and mogul terrain, and thanks to the new Bergman Bowl lift, some of the best lower level bowl terrain in the state of Colorado. But while it's gotten more competitive, Keystone still doesn't have quite the lift-served skiable footprint or quality of expert terrain to beat out the best resorts in the state. Some people won't be able to get enough of the terrain here, while others may find the resort better as a day trip from another nearby mountain. Keystone's lift ticket prices have historically been lower than that of other Colorado competitors, but the one-day lift ticket prices these days are just plainly ridiculous, with adult rates now going for up to $270 if you buy at the window in March or on a holiday. Keystone is on the Epic Pass, including the Epic Day Pass product, which is essentially just a flexible day ticket, so if you plan on visiting Keystone next year, be sure to pick up one of these products before they're off sale in early December. Now let's go through how Keystone stacks up in our overall rankings, which are determined by the following 10 category mountain score. Keystone doesn't see quite the same quantity of snowfall as some of its nearby competitors, but snow retention is very strong and the resort just barely qualifies for our score of 8 for snow. Keystone's extensive snowmaking and largely below treeline footprint help it stay reliably open throughout the course season, with especially strong early season operations, and the resort gets an 8 for resiliency. Keystone offers a 3,148 acre skiable footprint and measures in at 4,434 acres from boundary to boundary, and the resort gets an 8 for size. Keystone offers a very strong variety of intermediate to advanced below treeline terrain, as well as some solid high alpine bowls, both lift served and hiked to, and the resort gets an 8 for terrain diversity. Keystone isn't the most technically difficult mountain out there, but it does have its fair share of long, endurance-draining mogul runs, and the resort gets a 6 for challenge. Keystone offers mostly high-speed lifts, although the slow wayback chair is still a drag on the resort's setup. Even with the Bergman Bowl expansion, 40% of Keystone's skiable terrain still requires hiking to reach, get out of, or both, and the resort gets a 6 for lifts. Keystone can get pretty crowded on peak weekends and holidays, but its lift redundancies help quite a bit, and the resort gets a 7 for crowd flow. Keystone's mid-mountain lodges provide welcome isolation from the elements, but the mountain could benefit from a more convenient way to get inside from Outback, and the resort gets a 7 for facilities. Keystone is surprisingly straightforward to get around for its layout, but it still takes quite a bit of time to get to and from the furthest resort sections, and the resort gets a 6 for navigation. And finally, mountain aesthetic. Keystone may not be quite as iconic as some competitors, but it still offers some of the best mountain views in Colorado and feels really unique thanks to its stacked layout, and the resort gets an 8 in this category. These categories add up to an overall score of 72, placing Keystone 9th in Colorado as of spring 2024. Keystone is solidly competitive with the other destinations, but it still falls short in terms of its lift-served footprint and truly challenging terrain. In addition, the lower average snow totals mean that Keystone won't be seeing quite as many powder days as some of the best resorts in the state, but for a well-rounded, intermediate and up family-friendly vacation, Keystone does very little wrong, and it's hard to deny the mountain is a great choice. For more information on Keystone and over 100 destination ski resorts, check out peakrankings.com. See you for the next one.